People pleasing comes from being abused. And when you are this way, you become the bottom of the totem pole. This is Dr. Spencer Coaches. Today I'm going to talk to you about why people pleasing is such a poor way of relating to other people. It puts you on a low grade of social status and it makes you a doormat. And it comes from being abused in your history. Now, you can take care of other people, but you can't take care of yourself. And this is very common with people with childhood emotional neglect or even with CPTSD. Because when you're abused when you're younger, and you know what I'm talking about, you're going to develop a very distorted worldview, both of the world around you and yourself in the world. Because who you are as a person is defined by how you relate to the world. And that was developed when you're very young. And if you experienced abuse when you're younger, it distorts your sense of self. And people pleasing really comes from a sense of not belonging, and a sense of not having a feeling of acknowledgement and approval. There's a sense of low self-worth. There's a sense of not being good enough. And you want to please others so you can belong, and you do that by winning over their approval. And that's really the simple understanding. There's more to it. But if you have a fear of rejection, you have unhealthy boundaries with people, it's going to make it very difficult for you to have genuine, authentic connections with people. And this presents a problem with people at work, even with dating life, even if you're married and this starts to come up to the surface, it may create some tension within the relationship. Because if the other person doesn't know what's going on, be it husband or wife, and you can't express yourself to authentically or genuinely enough to let the other person know what is happening, it makes it difficult for the other person to read you and get to know you so they can help you. Because you're just trying to please them. And you're doing that primarily to avoid conflict. When you're being abused, I suffer from this. I was tortured literally when I was 4 and 5 years old. I don't want to get too into it, but went on some school programs that my parents didn't know what they were truly about. They did give the school approval to go on these field trips, and they turned out to be just horrifying experiences. And if, as children, we don't have the vocabulary to express what it is we're feeling, we don't have the vocabulary, especially at 5 years old, to express exactly what happened. So we bottle up and go internalize our feelings, especially if our parents aren't supportive. They don't believe us or didn't believe me when I was growing up. And they just don't know how to deal with it, quite frankly. They don't know development of child psychology is more, I think, more developed in today's time than it was in the late 70s and even early 80s. There's more research on childhood development. There's more research on trauma, more research on post-traumatic stress disorder to create this awareness, to create the understanding. And that's through my own research have learned about this. And that's what I'm speaking from. Now, if you have this deep fear of rejection, you're going to be a people pleaser. Because if you were abused, there is a tendency to want to please your abusers, to appease them, to, say, lighten the abuse up, to make them stop abusing us. And when you give in to their commands, if you will, becoming pure obedient, that's what happened to me. You take that into the real world, and now you're just this people pleaser. You kiss people's asses. You're a doormat. And when you find yourself in this position, you're at the bottom of the totem pole. Nobody respects you. So the consequences of that is that nobody wants to give you the time of day. You only get called up when people want to ride or gain access to some resource that you have. And your only value to others are the resources that you have. They don't care about you as a person. there's no real friendship. Everything becomes transactional. And in your mind, you may only know transactional relationships, tit for tat, and you think that that friendship is based upon some sense of them appreciating you for your resource. Say you're good at something. Say you have a car and people just call you up for rides. Say you have a camera, access to a gym or a tennis court or something, and you have membership and they only call you up to gain access to that membership. You follow what I'm saying? It doesn't feel good to be in that position, especially when you become aware of this. Like, wow, when I'm in trouble, nobody's around. But when I have a lot to offer, people are around. And you may develop this worldview that people are selfish, they're users, and become resentful as a consequence of this way of being, because your needs are never met by them. And if your needs are never met, you're going to feel used. And it's not a good feeling to feel used when you wake up and realize you are being used. There's a lot of resentment. And then you're unwilling to take chances and risk in developing friendships, developing work relationships with others because you're afraid of them using you. And this is the consequence of people pleasing long term. Eventually, you wake up to them using you, and it's like a slap in the face. Because if you don't have any real sense of community, if you're not valued by community, it's almost the brain processes abandonment the same way it processes pain. If you're going to get into a car accident or fall down and slam your hip on the ground, it's the same thing. The brain processes pain the same way. Emotional pain, the pain of abandonment, the pain of rejection, is processed the same way as physical pain. And when it's constant over and over and over again, the brain knows that this isn't normal to have so much pain as an experience. It begins to numb it out. You go into the freeze response, from the fawn response to the freeze response, and you become emotionally numb. You just shut down. And when you can't have any kind of you have no personality anymore. And you become just analytical and dry in this kind of stoic personality. There's no real expression. Nobody wants to relate to you anymore. You may find yourself further isolated from your community, further rejected from your own friends. They don't call you anymore. They don't wonder how you're doing. You're not invited out. And at work, everybody's going out for drinks and you're the one not being invited. It's not a good feeling to be the outsider looking in. So I want to help you get over this. There are 4 steps to overcoming the people pleaser mentality and finding yourself being the outsider looking in, because ultimately you feel unfulfilled and unsatisfied. And that's what you're really seeking, is satisfaction and fulfillment. Now, number 1, you need to cultivate self-worth. If you put your own well-being ahead of anything else, at every level, your physical, your emotional, and your psychological well-being, you got to put that first, because that's love. That's nurturance. Nurturance is our actions and energy put forth into something that helps it grow. And to help yourself, to foster your own emotional health, to help it grow, you need to learn how to nurture yourself. And that's how you're going to cultivate a sense of self-worth. Now, the other side is developing self-confidence. Often self-worth is tied into our self-confidence. Getting good at something. Whatever it is you currently do, get better at it. Or find something very simple to do, like building model cars, or playing pool, going to the pool hall, or taking a martial art, or working out at the gym, or running, running farther and farther distances. Folding your laundry, even something as simple as that, and getting really good. Perhaps it isn't getting better at something, it's becoming more efficient at it, getting better at the process of it. Getting better at anything, cultivating competency into the level of feeling like you're an expert, in other words, doing it with your eyes closed, often breeds confidence because it comes from what's called the growth mindset. When you have the growth mindset, it brings a state of clarity and understanding where you're able to trust your own decision making, because you're becoming more smarter. You're becoming more intelligent. You have a greater degree of comprehension. And when you have a greater degree of comprehension, it often calms the mind. It often calms the heart and cultivates emotional stability because it creates a sense of certainty. When things become predictable because you know how to control the outcome, in a sense, create the outcome, not control the outcome, because you have healthy decision makings, healthy choices, because you just know what you're doing. You're in charge. You have a sense of confidence and competency. There's a high degree of self-worth that comes from that. More high self-esteem and self-worth can come from self-esteem. So that's how you cultivate self-worth. And when you value yourself, when you're able to know what it is about you that's valuable, your own health, your own vitality, as well as your livelihood, then there's even a deeper sense of self-worth where you just know who you are. Nobody can piss you off. Nobody can irritate you. Nobody can knock you off of your center, so to speak. You find your center, your place of authenticity, which comes from your core values. What do you really value? What makes you happy? What puts a smile on your face? What gives you a sense of inner peace? That's the real foundation of self-worth. So explore that within yourself and you'll cultivate a sense of self-worth. Number 2, create healthy boundaries. Without healthy boundaries with people, they're going to continue to walk all over you. And when you feel like people's a doormat to people, it's not a good feeling. You know, social status is a huge part of our self-esteem and self-worth. When we realize we're not highly valued by our own peers, our own family, our own friends, it's often devastating. It's often such a low feeling that generates this feeling of depression and a feeling of anxiety. So work on creating health. Learn how to put your foot down. Learn how to say no, and learn how to be assertive with what you want and what you need. Let me continue on that, because when you don't have healthy boundaries, you turn other people's problems into your problems. You know, this is a great example. I've actually heard this. I forgot who it was, but they said, if you can't say no, you actually take on other people's problems. In other words, if someone asks you for a ride to the airport, now their problem becomes your problem. You have to wake up early. You have to show up by a certain time. You have to have enough gas in your car. You have to know the traffic, the route, the best way to get to the airport, how long it's going to take, what time to pick them up. And that was all their problem. Now that becomes your problem. So you see, if you don't say no, if you don't have a healthy sense of boundaries, you take on other people's problems, and that becomes a burden. That increases anxiety and then increases this stress within you. So that's why it's very important to have a healthy sense of boundary with your colleagues and your friends and family. It's hard to say no to family. Now, number 3, a healthy sense of belonging. You know, belonging, the need to win approval from other people comes from being abused. If you're abused, that is the definition of put down and rejected. And when you feel put down and rejected, it is complete abandonment. The pain is the same as physical pain. The brain processes it that way. And the pain can be so unbearable that you shut down. And when you shut down emotionally, you can't empathize with people. When you can't empathize with people, you're not going to connect with people. Hence, you're not going to feel a sense of belonging. You're only going to seek to win the approval of others so that you can belong. And it's a very shallow way of relating to people. People see right through it. That's why you're people's doormat. If you can't connect to people authentically, people are not going to value you. Authenticity and integrity is the cornerstone of all value, of all social value. Now, being entertaining is a great way of being to be valued by others. I mean, storytelling, making people laugh. People will want you around and you'll feel like you belong. But if it never goes deeper than that, then you're going to feel like these aren't your real friends. They're just using you. Because you know the saying, you know who your real friends are when you move. The people who actually call you up to see if you need help. I mean, sure, you can call people up, and if you hear them making excuses, I don't have the time, this and that, People have the ability to make time. If they're not giving you the time, they don't value you. And you don't want to just kick them out of your life. Some people, there's different degrees of friendship. There's different degrees of relating to people. There's your inner circle and outer circle. There's your acquaintances, there's your friends, your close friends, and your family, people whom you consider to be family, people who are loyal to you. Now, the fourth one, you have to develop, I shouldn't say have to, give yourself the opportunity of developing a sense of safety. Because within the sense of safety comes a feeling of being comfortable. When you can let your guard down, the anxiety, the tension, the stress all goes away. And when you can be relaxed, you're in a state of ease because you feel safe. If you don't need to put your guard up, you're going to be in a state of ease. And being at ease is your true, authentic self. Nobody walks around with their fist up. That's not normal. If you have to feel guarded around your friends, around your colleagues, well, something isn't right there. Is the threat real? First, determine that. Is the threat real? Is it a threat to your physicality? Most likely, it's not. I mean, we don't live in a state of war. Unless you live in a bad neighborhood, that's another story. But even then you got to develop martial arts, develop a sense of self-defense, know what street to walk down, what street not to walk down, know what time of day is safe, what time of day is not. Understand the dynamics of the neighborhood you live in, of the environment you live in, but also understand there are threats against your career. There's threats against your integrity. People may become jealous of you because they want to bring you down out of jealousy. And that is certainly a threat to your way of life. So determine what is a real threat from what is a false threat. Most of the threats that we think are real are not real. They are simply states or circumstances that are unfamiliar. And when they're unfamiliar, there's a sense of overwhelm. And when there's a sense of overwhelm, there's often tied into it confusion. We feel confused because we don't understand the circumstance or the person fully. Therefore, we have a sense of unfamiliarity. Therefore, there's a sense of overwhelm. Therefore, there's a sense of anxiety and fear that kicks in. And when you're in fear, you don't feel safe. You go back into that closing down, and you go back into that people pleasing. Having a sense of confidence, knowing who you are, knowing that you know how to handle situations is a skill that you can develop, gives you a sense of confidence. When you're in a sense of confidence, you're in a sense of knowing. You often feel safe because you know you can handle the situation. That it's not a threat. It's just that you know that if you handle the situation effectively, things tend to work out more smoothly. Things tend to work out in your favor. And if things work out in your favor, there's a sense of ease, a sense of flow in your life, a sense of success, and you're not going to feel unsafe. That's how you develop a sense of safety. First, look at your physical needs. Are they being met? If they're not being met, what is threatening your physical needs? If there's nothing threatening your physical needs but your own lack of ability to take care of yourself, that's just a sense of you need to learn how to take care of yourself. Nothing's really threatening you on the outside. You're just not taking care of yourself effectively so you can put yourself in a sense of ease. Now, emotionally, if people are demanding, that creates a sense of uneasiness. You don't feel safe. Don't confuse that sense of stress due to being challenged as a sense of threat. It's not a threat. It's just a challenge. Are you going to take on the challenge, or are you going to put the challenge on hold and just say, hey, I'm going to push it away. I'm not ready for this, which is totally fine. But are you going to run away from it? In other words, are you going to run away from your responsibilities and duties? Learning more skills. You want to take on a challenge because you feel overwhelmed by it. You need to work on your skills. The skills of overcoming that challenge. If it's negotiation skills, if it's communication skills, if it's transdispositional, if it's really work related, if it's marriage related, it's mostly communication skills. Learn the skill to handle the challenge effectively so you don't feel overwhelmed and you have a sense of knowing and confidence within yourself. That is more common than not when it comes to feeling safe, because often you are safe. There's no threats. Nobody's chasing after you. Nobody has a gun to your face. Nobody has a knife to your throat. There's no physical threat. It's all exaggerated in our mind through irrational beliefs because our emotional needs are not being met. Our sense of comfort, our sense of certainty, our sense of moral support is not being met. So we have a distorted view of what is happening around us, and we have a sense of overwhelm, and therefore we feel fear and anxiety. So that's how you overcome that, is developing skills. Get to know the situation, get to know the dynamics, and familiarize yourself with it. Whenever you go into a lake or a pool or the beach, you start off in the shallow end. You get your feet wet first before you go waist deep, and then before you go neck deep, before you go into water that's over your head. In other words, situations and circumstances that require a great amount of skill to handle, negotiate, and master. Those are the ways, the 4 ways. Number 1, cultivate self-worth. Number 2, create healthy boundaries. Number 3, develop a healthy sense of belonging, be authentic, demonstrate integrity. Trade, be upfront about your trade. Get everything in return. I'm doing this for you. What are you going to do for me? Number 4, the need for safety. More often than not, it's really a desire for comfort. And life is not supposed to make you feel comfortable all the time. Get a healthy, realistic, pragmatic sense of what is truly threatening, and have the distinction between what is threatening and what is challenging. This is Dr. Spencer Coaches. If you find yourself in this situation, you find yourself feeling stuck and feeling like, wow, I am just a people pleaser. People are just walking all over me. It could be because of the comfort, whatever the reason is. Most likely there's some trauma in your history you haven't dealt with. There's emotional needs that are misunderstood by yourself. And you're neglecting yourself because this is just getting old, and you're frustrated. You're tired of being the odd man out. You're tired of being the people pleaser. You're tired of fetching the coffee. It's caused by you not clearing the trauma out of your system. Go ahead and leave a comment below. I'm a transformational mindset coach. I specialize in this because I've transformed my own trauma into a successful life, and I want to teach you how to do it in my 5-step program, where I'm going to take you from dissatisfied, unfulfilled, into a state of fulfillment, satisfaction, and abundance. Leave a comment below for more information. My website will be in the font below. The link will be there. Thank you so much for listening. Go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much.